Good.
Gimel Aleph. If one separated a cucumber as truma and it is found to be bitter, a melon and is found to be rotten, it is truma. Anybody must give truma again. If one separated a jar of wine and was found and have turned into vinegar, if it is known that it turned into vinegar before truma was taken, it's not truma. But if it turns into vinegar after he gave truma, it is truma. If it is doubt, it is truma. But if he must give truma again, the first one does not of itself render meduma, and one is not liable to the fifth, and so too is it with the second. If one of them fell into chulin, it does not render it meduma. If the second one fell into another place, it does not render it meduma. If both fell in at the same place, they render it meduma according to the smaller of the two. And if partners separated truma one after another, Rabbi Kiva says the truma of both of them is truma. But the Chachamim say the truma of the first is truma, and Rabbi Yossi says that the first gave the prescribed amount, the truma of the second is not truma. But if the first did not give the prescribed amount, the truma of the second is truma. Okay.
Okay. Um, okay, so now Mishnah Dalet is a follow-on from Mishnah Gimel, uh, where we were saying about if he about the two partners who both contributed their
Right.
both took truma. Bamed dvarim amorim. When is this said? V'shelo diber. This is only talking about where the two did not to each other, where they each went independently. However, aval hirsha es ben beso or es avdo or es shivcha sodichon. But if he gave permission for somebody in his household to go and give truma, and they went ahead and did it, truma so truma, then that truma is completely valid truma. Um, okay, bitel. However, if he nullified their shlichus, if he said no, 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 I don't want you to do it anymore. Okay. Im ad shelo taram bitel. If they had not yet taken the truma, when he said no, I don't want you to take truma anymore. Ain truma sa truma. Then the truma was not a valid truma. V'im mishitaram bitel. But if he had already taken the truma when the owner was mevatel the shlichus, it's too late. Truma so truma. It's done. It was done with permission, and you can't undo the taking of the truma. Hapoalim ein lahem reshus litrum. Your general rule is that workers who are working with his property don't have permission to take truma. You can't assume that they have permission, and as we learned in the first Mishnah, if you don't have permission to take truma, you cannot take truma from something that's not yours. Okay, chutz min hadarochos, except for the darochos, which most people translate as the people who are treading the grapes. Shehein mitamin is hagas miad, because because they are able to be mitame the whole wine vat. Okay, now what does that mean? Why does that change their status as far as taking truma is concerned? Um, the Some commentaries put it down to a situation where you've got an Amaret's owner who's hired chaverim to press his grapes.
Right.
Why? Because he trusts them on Tormentara. He knows that they're not going to mess up his wine. He wants to be able to take his wine and use it for the temple or for whatever else, and therefore implicit in this hiring of people to tread his grapes is that he wants them to separate the truma as well, because then they'll make sure that it comes out from
Right. Right.
produce, and yeah, that's so in this specific case, his permission to take truma is taken as implicit. Okay, hey, Omer trumas hakri ze besocho. It's an interesting mission of this because, like, I cannot imagine why a person would want to do something like this, because all he's doing is creating trouble for himself. But often the Mishnah does this kind of thing where it takes a hypothetical situation and says, well, okay, what would the halacha be if a person did such a thing?
Right.
Okay, so what is he doing? He's saying he's got this big pile of grain in his granary. It's all ready for taking truma. And instead of actually separating the truma, he says the truma of this grain is inside it. So he's now mentally designated it, but he doesn't say where it is. Okay. So if he did such a thing, umasros or besocho, and also furthermore the mastros are also in the pile, and trumas maser is besocho, and the trumas maser is also in the pile, but he doesn't say where. Rabbi Shimon Omer Karashem. So Rabbi Shimon says, "Too bad, so sad, mate. You've messed yourself up because now you've declared that there's truma in your pile and you have no idea where it is, and now the whole thing is meduma." Okay. Chachamim אומרים עד שיאמר בצפונו או בדרומו. No, say Chachamim say that you cannot just vaguely say that the truma is in it somewhere. You actually have to say where it is physically. Say, is it in the north or the south or wherever it is, so that you can actually have an area where the truma has been designated, and therefore once he's designated it, he knows which part to separate out.
He has to separate it anyway. He can't just say it's in the pile. It's in here.
Well, according to Rabbi Shimon, it's somewhere
Right.
in it's a random place and you don't know where it is, so the whole thing is meduma. Okay, but Chachamim, according to Chachamim, if he did it without stating the location, then it was a meaningless act. Okay, Rabbi Elazar Chisma Omer. Ha'omer Chumas Hakri Mimenu Alav Karashem. He says if somebody makes a statement in a slightly different wording over here, the truma of this granary is is from it. Uh, I'm not sure what's the specific change in wording. He said the original wording was Trumas Akri Ze Besocho. It is inside it. And Rabbi Elazar Chisma's wording says he agrees with Chachamim against Rabbi Shimon in the first case, but he says if you change the wording slightly to say Trumas Akri Mimenu Alav, from it is on it. Then he jumps onto Rabbi Shimon's side and says, "Yep, he's declared the truma and it's inside there somewhere." Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer Haomer Isur Maaser Zeh. So now he's talking about taking maaser from produce as opposed to truma. Isur the tenth of this maaser. So the tenth of the maaser again is trumas maaser. So again we're talking about truma. Um, but it's from a different portion. He says, Isur Maser ze asoi trumas maser alav. Um, so so he says when it comes to taking trumas maser out of the maser portion that has been set aside, he says that has again he has declared it even if he didn't state a location. Um, let's see what's right. So it's these are all diokim in the lashon that he uses to separate it out. But I think in all these cases, we're still going to be holding by the Chachamim who say you've got to actually designate a place for it to come out, and thus will be the halacha. And we also see that when if you've got the little sheet of how to separate trumas and mastras from your produce, it'll always say you separate out the piece that's going to become truma plus trumas maser, and when you say the whatever portion it is, we always say it's the tzada elyon and the tzada tachton. So you've always designated a place where your maaser rishon is, and where the maaser sheni or the maaser ani is going to be the bottom portion.
Right.
So we do follow that halacha that we have to designate exactly the place. Okay. Hamaktim truma lebikurim. Okay, so now let's just get an order of precedence over here. Truma is done on finished produce. Bikurim is done while it's still on the tree. Okay, what happens is you're in the like almost in the middle of winter almost, and you take it's just after Tu B'Shvat, and you come and see, oh look, the produce is starting to form on the tree, and he takes a little string and ties it around the first thing just as the fruit is starting to form and says Hareze Bikurim. Okay, so Bikurim is way before Truma in the order of events. But now what happens in Mishnah Vav is that this guy forgot to separate Bikurim. Okay, he went and grew his fruit and cut down the fruit and he's already separating truma when he says, "Gavalt, I forgot to separate bikurim from this fruit." So now he's taken the truma already, and now he wants to take bikurim. Okay, so that's case A. Next case, Maaser Rishon Truma. A guy he's got his produce all ready for truma and maaser. And before he separated out the Truma Gedola, he took out Maaser Rishon. He just got confused in the order of events. Maaser Sheni LeRishon, or he separated Maaser Sheni before he separated Maaser Rishon. Afal Pishehu Over Below Tase. He has violated a Torah commandment by not doing things in the right order. Well, Masha Asa Asoy. It is he's done it and it's done. And there's no it didn't invalidate what he did. So he did it wrong. No, no, no. It was but nonetheless what he separated is separated and his declaration is valid. Shneimar meleasacha v'dim'acha lo se'acher. Or the pasuk it says that you cannot delay giving your
He
meleah
can't do it again. He took the
the
truma. He can't do
bikurim.
it again.
So bikurim should be first, and dim'acha is the truma. So that's the drasha of this pasuk. Your this is the correct order that you need to do, but the avad, if you did them in the wrong order, it is nonetheless effective.
Because he can't do it again. So he's got to.
Correct. You cannot do it again. I mean, he'll go back and he'll separate the bikurim afterwards. Okay.
Okay. Shvius.
Cool.
Hey. If a predated pros bill is valid, but a post-dated one is invalid. Predated bills of indebtedness are invalid, but post-dated ones are valid. If one person borrows from five, he must write a pros bill for each. If five persons borrow from one, he need only write one. A pros bill may only be written for land. If he has none, he gives him title to part, however small, of his field. If he has land held in pledge in the city, a pros bill may be written for it. The Chutzpah says one may write for a man concerning his wife's property and for orphans concerning the guardian's property. A beehive, Rabbi Eliezer says, is regarded as landed property, and pros bill may be written on it, and it is not susceptible to uncleanliness while in its place. And he who takes honey from it on the Sabbath is liable. But the comments say it is not regarded as a landed property. A pros bill may not be written on it, and it is susceptible to uncleanliness while in its place. And he who takes honey from it on the Sabbath is not liable. Okay.
Okay.
See here? We're going to finish this Sunday, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So then restart truma.
Start Trumer again?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Until I get it right. Okay. Okay. Kalayam. Um, Here we go. Garment vendors may sell in the usual fashion, provided they do not react to the sun in the sun or to the rain in the rain, but the scrupulous suspend them over a staff behind them. Tailors may sew in the usual fashion, provided they do not react to the sun in the sun or to the rain in the rain, but the scrupulous are sew on the ground. Burson, Bedarson, the Maltic, and the Balmagion and felt shoes may not be worn until they have examined. Rabbi Yossi says those which has come from the coast and from overseas need not be examined, since the presumption is that they are made of hemp, and wool-lined shoes do not come under the prohibition of kalayim. Okay. Okay.
Book
We
10.
have okay. Base Gimel. Regarding a pomegranate or a watermelon, a portion of which is written rotten, that portion does not combine. If the fruit is complete on either side and rotten in the middle, it does not combine. The pitum of a pomegranate combines, but its nates does not combine. Rabbi Eliezer says even the masrik is tahu. All peels contract tuma and convey tuma and combine. The Buddha says there are three peels on an onion. The innermost peel, whether it is whole or perforated, combines. The middle peel, if it is whole, it combines, but if it is perforated, it does not combine. And the outermost peel, in either case, is tahor. Regarding one who cuts a food in order to cook it, even though he did not complete the cut, it is not a connection. But if he cut it in order to preserve it, or to overcook it, or to place it on the table, it is considered a connection. If he began to separate the sections of food which he began to separate is not considered a connection. And regarding walnuts that one braided together or onions that he bunched together, they are not connections. Is that right? Yeah, they are connections. If he began to take them apart in the case of walnuts or to peel them in the case of onions, it is not a connection. And the shells of walnuts and almonds are a connection until one crushes them. Okay. Uh,
Ohalos.
excuse me?
Yeah, Ohalos Gimel Daled.
Yeah. Yeah, hold on. Okay. How so? If a corpse is outside and its hair is inside the house, becomes tummy. A bone has on it an outside piece of flesh. If part of this bone was brought under the roof of a house, the contents of the house become tummy. There are two bones, each of which has on it half an olive-sized piece of flesh. If part of each bone was brought under the roof of a house, the contents of the house become tummy. If they were attached by man, the house remains tahor. But of course, whatever is attached by man is not considered an inherent attachment. What qualifies as death blood? An eighth of a log of blood flowed out of a dying person while he was still alive, and an eighth flowed out after he died. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Ishmael says a quarter log of blood that flowed out while the person was alive and a quarter of the log that fell out after his death were combined from this mixture. A quarter log was taken. Rabbi Eliezer, son of Rabbi Yehuda, says both of these are like water. What is death blood? When there is a hanged person whose blood was flowing out and a quarter log of blood was found beneath him, the blood is tummy. And if a corpse blood was dripping and a quarter log of blood was found underneath it, the blood is tahor. Rabbi Yehuda says not so. Rather, that which flows out is
said.
sorry, I don't know what that was. Not so. Rather, that which flows out is tahor, and that which drips is tummy. An olive-side piece of corpse in a room must have an opening of one handbreadth, and a whole corpse must have an opening of four handbreadths to prevent tumor from spreading to the other openings. But to allow tumor to spread, one square handbreadth suffices. If it is larger than the volume of an olive, it is treated as a whole corpse. Rabbi Yossi says a spinal column and a skull are treated like a whole corpse.
Okay.
I don't know what that was. I have no idea. Okay. Base above. There are three things that Rabbi Ishmael said and Rabbi Akiva did not agree with him. Garlic, unripe grapes, or unripe grain that one crushed while it is still day. That Rabbi Ishmael says he may finish it after dark. But Rabbi Akiva says he may not finish after dark. There are three things that the disciples stated before Rabbi Akiva. Two of the things that they said in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, and one of them said in the name of Rabbi Shua. The two things they said in the name of Rabbi Eliezer were a woman may go out with the city of gold on the Sabbath, and pigeon flies are unfit for testimony. Pigeon flyers. And the one thing said to Rabbi Akiva in the name of Rabbi Shua was if a sheretz was in the mouth of a weasel, and the weasel was walking over some loaves of bread of truma, so that there is a doubt whether the sheretz touched the truma or did not touch it, the doubt is a ruled tahor. Rabbi Akiva stated three things concerning two. The sages agreed with him, and concerning that one that did not agree with him. Concerning a lime work, a sandal, the sages agreed that it's susceptible to tumah of midras. And the sages also agreed with Rabbi Akiva concerning the remembrance of an oven, that they must be less than 4 tefakim in size, for the sages used to say that the 3 tefakim was sufficient, but they conceded to Rabbi Akiva. And concerning one, they did not agree with him, namely concerning a chair from which 2 of its seat slots were moved, one next to the other, which Rabbi Akiva declares susceptible to tumah contamination, and the sages declare it is not susceptible to tumah contamination. Okay. And okay, base hay. The entire day is valid for reading the Megillah, reciting this Hallel, blowing the shofar, taking the lulav, reciting the musaf prayer offering, the musaf sacrifices, the confession recited with the offering of the bowls, The confession recited with the tithe, the confession of Yom Kippur, leading the hands on the head of a sacrificial animal, slaughtering of sacrifices, waving of sacrifices, bringing near the vessel with the meal offering to the altar, taking a handful of the meal offering and burning it, nipping the neck of the burnt offerings, receiving the blood of sacrifices, sprinkling the blood of sacrifices, concerning the sota to drink, causing the sota to drink, and cutting the neck of the heifer and the cleansing of the Masorah. The entire night is valid for the reaping of the Omer and for the burning of sacrificial fats and lambs. This is the general rule. Any rite which has to be done by day might be performed throughout the day. Any rite which has to be done by night might be performed throughout the night. If the representatives of a town sell the town square, they must use the proceeds of that sale to purchase a synagogue. If they sell a synagogue, they must purchase an ark. If they sell an ark, they must purchase wrappings of the Torah scrolls. If they sell wrappings, they must purchase books of scripture. If they sell books of scripture, they must purchase the Torah scroll. However, if they sold the Torah scroll, they may not use the proceeds to purchase books of scripture. If they sold books of scripture, they may not purchase wrappings for the Torah scrolls. If they sold wrappings, they may not purchase an ark. If they sold an ark, that they may not purchase a synagogue, and if they sold the synagogue, they may not purchase a square. Moreover, the same is true of any leftover proceeds. Communal properties may not be sold to an individual, for this would lessen the sanctity of the article. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. They said to him, if so, they may not even sell the synagogue to a large town. The resident they may sorry, if so, they may not even sell the synagogue of a large town to the residents of a small town.
Okay. That
But I can't believe that this is Shabbat.